Sargon of Akkad doesn't support Israel. Big surprise. Yeah, the answer to wokeness that some people thought was the answer to wokeness in the 2010s is going very strongly in a direction that if you ever saw the many debates that he had with Raka, former host on this channel, Raka told him he would go in. Um, Sargon's approach was always less an ideology offering something positive and more anti-leftism. And as we see with many anti-leftists, the one thing they're not anti the left in is when it comes to how to deal with the Jewish state, which is to support its enemies. So, we've been thinking about doing a show about Sargon for a while. He's gone, he's gone in various interesting directions, all of them wrong. But yeah, since he is not only talking about Israel, but also uh, it got to the point where he's defending Palestine Action, the recently proscribed terrorist organization in the UK. We thought now is the time. Now, a part of why we thought now is the time was also because there was some very good commentary about Sargon done by Rebecca Barsef, who is joining us now once again. So, Rebecca, I'm gonna go right to you and just give us your general thoughts before we get into specifics about Sargon's recent comments when it comes to Palestine action and generally his approach to Israel.
So I would say that Sargon plays a very important role, and his role is the one that makes you fall asleep. Is the fake action
Um,
feel nice?
your
Oh,
volume is very low, can I just say?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me fix it. I'm sorry. Is it better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So I was saying Sargon has a very special role, very unique, important role, and he's the one that makes the population fall asleep. He gives the impression of something is being said and something is being done. But in reality is the one that is actually relaxing, right? So you hear that you have representation on something you want to hear, right? Going against, oh, how dare Mr. whatever his name was, Bob Villain, say that Britain was, you're not going to get Britain back, shut up. And then he goes ahead and focuses on Israel himself. So this is called like hearing what you want to hear as a Brit, right? Why is everybody hiding behind Israel? And that's a sentiment I 100% understand. And I also voiced it myself with a British activist. And I tell, listen, you use Israel and Palestine to hide behind what is happening in the UK, right? Instead of saying Britain, you're saying Israel. But what you mean is Britain when you're supporting Israel. And this like, so it's time to like just tell me what's wrong with Britain and handle that. But Sargon, what he does is very beautiful because he says Britain is having troubles, and then once his audience heard what they want to hear, he puts them to sleep and starts talking about everything that is not how to get Britain out of the situation it's at.
Yeah, Michael, one of the things he was talking about when he was talking about Bob Villain and the things he had an issue with, the death to the IDF, not so much, but the you're not getting your country back, he had an issue with because of something to do with indigenous people. So for him, it is to the best of my understanding, of black people versus white people thing in the UK, where he is, on the side of white people, and it's an indigenous people thing in Israel as well, where he is on the side of what he thinks is the indigenous people there, which is Palestinians. But yeah, bottom line is, when it comes to people calling Israelis settler colonialists who should go back to Europe, that's actually the consistent message is, if this is what you're saying about Israelis, this is what you should be saying about non-white people. I mean, that is consistent, White people are supposedly the indigenous people. If you're telling Jews to go back to Europe, yeah, do the same and tell black people to go back to Africa, which Sargon isn't officially doing, but I think he's a few steps away from that. Michael.
No, he will never say that because you never take the people that have been, quote, displaced and tell them to go back to where they were supposed to be. And he won't let obviously loads of history dictate. We know the Jews were there. We have the Bible itself. The Old Testament of the Bible is one of the oldest documents we have, and we have documents from Babylon, and we have tons of stuff. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have tons of stuff that James knows far better than I do, and Rebecca probably does. But I think the whole settler colonial argument is ridiculous. I think this is kind of a thought experiment like Schrodinger's cat, where the cat is maybe in the box and maybe not in the box, or maybe alive or dead, if you want to take the real version. It's ridiculous. First of all, no American should ever talk about the settler colonial problem. Because if we do, we might as well get up and leave and go to wherever we came from, because all the white people in America came over from other places, starting with before Christopher Columbus. Unless you believe the new history where the blacks discovered America and all that baloney, but that's a separate discussion. But this whole thing is just living in la la land. It's like some fourth dimensional other universe where why are we talking about this? There's no country that occupies its country, and they sort of get into this a little bit, although it's on the periphery, that's going to get up and leave. We white people are not leaving America, including us Jews, unless we voluntarily want to. And America is not going to pick up and give it back to the American Indians or the Native Americans or whatever the current flavor of the month is. And we're certainly not really apologizing, despite all of our liberal institutions taking 2 minutes at the beginning of every meeting to thank the people who gave up their life for us. They didn't give it up for us. We took it, period. That's how it worked. That's how human history worked from the very beginning, from Cro-Magnon man to Neanderthals, all the way up to Homo sapiens. That's how it worked. Initially, it was the people with the bigger guns that got to take over, and then it were bigger weapons, and then it was the people that had the bigger brains. And the irony of Israel is it's actually the people who lived there first, who are still there, called the Jews, that were there. So I think, once again, we're getting caught in a trap of starting an argument in the middle of it, rather than asking if the presuppositions that we're talking about, settler colonialism, first of all, that statement should go away from Earth. Human history does not negate. I mean, actually, human history is full of settler colonialism from the get-go. Tribes took over tribes, people enslaved people. That's the way it worked. Putting the American Indians, Native Americans on reservations was actually one of the kinder things that was done to people, rather than slaughtering them or enslaving them. So I don't understand why we all get allowed to get caught up in these intellectual, stupid thought experiments that have no bearing on reality. But certainly every American should run the other direction.
Yeah. Now, I mean, Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad is British, so white people, I guess, have been here longer. But in a sense, James, if we're all settler colonialists who should go back to Africa, if we're going to follow this argument to its logical conclusion. But even if you just talk about the Jews, why it's interesting that they say go back to Poland and not go back to Yemen or Morocco. I mean, most Israelis are not European, of not of European descent. But
Right.
bottom line is this settler colonialist,
Yeah.
go back to where
Give
you came
Europe
from.
back to the Neanderthals.
Yeah, it is racism, pure and simple, James.
Yes, well, if we're going to talk about Native Americans, the Navajo and Apache should go back to the original lands and not have conquered the indigenous, or take the Aztecs. My God, they conquered all the indigenous tribes around them and enslaved them and subjected them to human sacrifice. My British friends, I think that the Scots should go back to Ireland and the Angles and the Saxons should go back to Germany. I mean, how far back are we going to take? Oh, the Normans, that was a mere 1,000 years ago. So I think all that French influence in the English language is a corruption of capitalist imperialism, or I don't know what ideology you want to impose upon it. But it is absolutely absurd. It is absolutely absurd to try and rewind history in that way. I would recommend 2 articles by Ayn Rand to combat this neo-tribalism that is rearing its ugly head in all quarters of the world right now. Collectivized rights and global balkanization. The concept of ethnicity is kind of a trumped up one, an anti-concept that gloms over two things: racism and other forms of true invidious discrimination, and the rights of the individual. They're two very, 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 very different things. If we're going to be tribalistic, Mr. Benjamin, then of course British people all over the world, their vast empire, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, Canada, not just major parts of North America, in the United States, this is just a tribalism, and what I get the chilling impression of is that this is an outright defense of tribalism. I mean, the reason why, we can go back 2,000 years. The reason why Jews have been spread across the Muslim and Christian worlds is because the Roman Empire conquered Judea twice. The second time they did it in the 2nd century BC, they evicted the Jews from Jerusalem and Judea, evicted them. And then, of course, they were a persecuted minority within the Muslim and Christian worlds. We've got to get past this tribalism altogether. It can't be a matter of where your ancestors came from. It can't be a matter of race, and religion as such even isn't the issue. It's a question of your ideology, and is your ideology one that opposes individual rights and individual freedom? If you're in favor of violence, I don't care what ground you give it, whether it's communism, Nazism, Islamism, it's the ideology of violence. It's the ideology of not getting on with your neighbor, whether he is Jewish, whether he is Black, whether he is Pakistani. The point is, it's not the qua Pakistani that England is having a problem. It is qua a violent ideology, an ideology that encourages criminal behavior. And that is what we should be combating in every civilized nation. It's not a question of what non-volitional characteristic you have, like your ancestry. My ancestry is utterly irrelevant to my living here in Southern California or having a right to live here in Southern California. I respect other people's individual rights. My property rights here were voluntarily acquired. That is the only relevant question before us. Are there criminal groups that you could associate with certain groups? Yeah, Islamism is one that comes strikingly to mind. But it doesn't matter whether you're Arab, Farsi, Pakistani, I don't care. It's the advocacy of violence that I care about. It's not your ancestry. It's not any other unchosen characteristic that you might have. When we reinsert that into the debate, it is instantaneously corrupt. And so all I can do is recommend that you read some Ayn Rand, learn the philosophy of individualism, and that is the antidote to the problem here.
Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian says, nice to see Rebecca as a special guest on your channel. On settler colonialism, everyone not being a nomad is a settler. And Vered says, I unsubscribed from Carl Benjamin years ago because of the anti-Semitism on his channel, which he encouraged and thought was hilarious. Yes, because anti-leftism is basically doing the things that you think will piss off the left, whether or not they're right or wrong. And I guess, bigotry, he thinks, will piss off the left, even though the left is full of bigotry. That is pretty much what they do. It's just a different kind of bigotry from what he likes. We have some clips. Let's go to the first. I don't know the order of these, and I don't know what's coming, but I'm familiar with Sargon, so I kind of know what to expect.
So this is the sum total of the damage that was done to RAF Bryce Norton when a handful, 4 suspects, managed to break in the middle of the night and spray paint some planes with paint. Right now, we're told that this is £7 million worth of damage. Right. So what are we saying? The cost of a new coat of paint for one of those planes is £7 million. That's a bit expensive. I'll do it for half.
All right.
This is not.
Let's pause there. I have to say, we've had Carl Benjamin on this channel. I've met him multiple times. He is actually a very intelligent man. He just sometimes likes to play a dumbass on YouTube, and this is a very clear example of that. Rebecca, I know you spoke about this on your channel. Is it just a coat of paint that's needed? And we can get into what if that was the case, but is that the case?
Well, first of all, no. They sprayed inside the engine, so it's a lot of work and a lot of cleaning to do, and those are expensive parts. So definitely not just a paint coat, whatever. However he described that, but it's unbelievable. This is why I say, like, this person, I think he's more dangerous than a lot of people who show you who they are. And I say that from, you know what, I like from time to time, let go of the fact that I'm a Jew and Israeli, Like, I'm thinking as a Brit. Let's say I don't care about what happens to Jews or Israelis, and which I believe is completely legitimate because I am not spending my time worried about Sudanese people in Sudan. I'm sorry. Like, as much as it's too much, and I don't do that, okay? So I don't expect anyone else to do. But it's Sudan. I think about it from time to time, but definitely I think less frequently than once a month. Anyway, the thing is, okay, I get it, but as a British person, right, like somebody who is supposedly on right wing or whatever wing, trying to say like they're against this Islamization and everything like that, and then he goes and like puts his audience to sleep. And I was like, this is dangerous. This is so dangerous. Oh, it's not a big deal. What are you saying it's not a big deal? What do you mean it's not a big deal? Like, rally the troops, rally your people, tell them it is a big deal. Make sure that it is a big deal. Because the UK was humiliated by this action. Humiliated symbolically, but like in the most like, I said it on my channel. Imagine like you have a house, right? You're in your home. And then it's not only that they left a note in your house, they cracked open the safe and left a note there saying you suck.
Yeah, thank you, Shibru, for the super chat. Shibru says, you have all helped me keep my cool these last 2 years. Cool to see you here, Rebecca. And Bob asks, does Rebecca know Alex? Yes, Alex has been on Rebecca's channel. I remember in one of those, it was like 5 minutes in where Alex said, oh, did you know we're live? So yeah, I recommend going over and checking some of those live streams out. Yeah, Michael, we make fun of some of these protesters here on this channel as well, but the fact is, this is an attack on the military of this country, which Carl Benjamin is a supposed patriot of. Um, so yeah, what is it that gets, in this specific case, he has this reaction to it, and yeah, what is it that makes this different from any other attack on your military? You're muted.
I think downplaying it is extremely short-sighted, first of all. Second of all, the old adage that people vote with their wallet seems to have gone out the window because he's one of the idiot taxpayers who's going to be paying more taxes, or his taxes are going to go to repair everything there instead of going to things that will actually help the society move forward. What's amazing about people like this, and they know it, and what I don't know where they think this is going to stop, because when bullies, people that are mostly people that become criminals later in life generally start off life being bad actors, and people just let them get away with stuff. I mean, and you let people get away with this, and then suddenly you've got two dead Israelis in front of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. This cannot be any surprise to anybody, right? I mean, the behavior and the rhetoric that led up to those deaths, never mind the arson on a person, never mind the fact that somebody was doused in gasoline and lit on fire in Colorado. This is not surprising. Anybody who has any kind of logical brain understands that if you continue with the rhetoric that we have and you allow smaller acts of vandalism, it escalates. The next thing is there'll be a small bomb where we'll only damage some equipment, and then there'll be a larger bomb, and then there will be some unfortunate people that get hurt who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and all the idiots who perpetrated it will plead that they didn't expect anyone to be at the military site at the time, and they were protesting, because they're good people and they were just doing the right thing and they're righteous and they were stopping the horrible genocide or whatever the current flavor of the month is for why you should go after the military. That's on one side. I think on the other side, the fact that the military would put up with this and just kind of sit there and say, oh, it's too bad. And it's, these people should be brought to justice, and it's just some bad adults behaving like children. You've got to stop this behavior. The goal of any reaction to this behavior has got to be to take these players out of the game and send a very clear message that it will not be not just say this will not be tolerated, because we have politicians who say that crap all the time. Reminds me of when something's broken and they write, we regret the inconvenience. Nobody in management regrets any inconvenience because they're not standing there waiting for the broken elevator or the broken whatever. Same thing. This will not be tolerated. It happened. It was tolerated. And in fact, everything leading up to it was tolerated. And the military ought to be screaming. Now, they don't have to do it publicly, but one gets the sense that, it's just another day in the military and they'll just send their guys over to repair it and the salaries keep getting paid. And it's kind of good. And I just don't know what these people expect. We know, and I'll use another American analogy, my apology, that when you stop tolerating bad behavior and do something about it, it stops. Rudy Giuliani proved that very quickly in New York City, which used to be a total disaster before Rudy, with crime all over the place. He put a policeman almost on every single corner in Manhattan. And guess what happened to crime? In a couple of weeks, crime crashed. And in a couple of months and over years, it went way, way, way down to the point where they could pull out the policeman. And it showed that if you had the policy that he had and you enforced it, which was a zero crime tolerance policy in Manhattan, that you could achieve much, much lower crime risk. And it's the same on the border of America. Guess what? If you put people on the border and you actually enforce the laws that you already have and you stop people coming through holes in the fence, guess what happens to your number of illegal immigrants? It crashes. And I don't know what the goals of these kinds of so-called intellectual thought leaders or yappers, I would call them, similar to, a young daughter I have loves to yap about nothing. I don't know what their goal is, except to continue with chaos and continue to divert our tax dollars to useless things.
Well, I hear crime is making a comeback in New York, by the way. But the thing is with Sargon is he's not yapping about nothing. He is saying really, really bad stuff, and to an audience of people who take him seriously. And in one of I don't know if we have this in a clip, but he's talking about the death to the IDF chant, and he explains it as, yeah, if you're Ukrainian, you say death to the Russian military. If you're Russian, you say death to the Ukrainian military, as if whatever position you have, which from these examples is the position you happen to have been born into, that is the position you are right to take. By the way, there's been some controversy in the UK about some people saying that Bob Dylan called for death to the Jews, and some suggestions that he should sue people who interpreted it that way. Let me make it very clear. Bob Dylan called for death to the Jews. Death to the IDF means death to the people who stopped October 7th before every single Jew in Israel was murdered. That was the goal. It still is the stated goal of every Palestinian faction. They hate each other, but they hate the Jews more, and they want to kill every last Jew. If you say, let's kill all the armed Jews who are preventing the second Holocaust from happening, you are calling for death to the Jews. Bob Dylan, you are welcome to sue me for that. James, I know you can't practice law in the UK, but hopefully you can somehow defend me anyway. Yeah, your thoughts.
I can also relate, recently, a friend of mine, I live in the San Diego area. The Navy and the Marines are heavily present here. And he is a Navy veteran. And he gave my wife and I a lovely tour of the North Island Naval Air Station. And we diverted, and we had to go through multiple levels of security to get on to that air station. And when we went just a few meters beyond the permitted area where tours, even when you're guided by someone from the Navy, boy, the MPs were honest like that. No, you've got to turn around. We have super security here. And we completed our tour, but left. It is shocking, and it should be shocking to Brits that that people were able to do this as such. It is a major security threat to the national security of the United Kingdom. Quite obviously, it doesn't matter to me if individual rights can be violated in ways other than physically harming someone's body, and physically blocking someone's body can do it. Violating their property rights can do it. We have to have a proper understanding of what individual rights are and when they are violated. You talk about protests being, part of free speech. Well, when that protest violates anybody's rights, it is no longer free speech. It is now beginning to test the waters, putting your toe in to see. Another article by Ayn Rand that I would urge everyone to read is Man's Rights, which gives you a clear understanding what individual rights are. It's the application of force, direct or indirect, against another human being or their property. In this case, this is a government military base. And what else are they doing but testing the waters for greater damage? The damage here was a violation of rights, other people's rights. They don't have any to even articulate a defense for this is obviously to defend the people behind this, the message behind this. Like death to the IDF. Okay, that may be free speech when I say it and I'm not harming anyone else. But when I take one step in that direction that violates another person's rights, then we're down the slippery slope of saying, well, I was just blocking your path. Well, I was just damaging your, spray painting your property. Well, and where does it end? It will end with, well, it was, a mostly peaceful protest with fires going on behind you. We call them mostly peaceful protests, in 2020. No. Mostly belies the whole thing. If it wasn't altogether peaceful and non-rights violating, is it free speech and protected? Nor should it be. This is a threat to British national security and by people who have an evil tribalist ideology. And my free speech is going to come out against those people who are doing the spray painting, and the people who did the spray painting, should be put in the hoosegow for quite some time. It was a threat to British national security. Full stop.
All right, let's listen to some more from Sargon Carl Benjamin. If we have a clip ready. There it is.
Half. This is not really very important. This is utterly trivial. Right, the plane would still fly. As far as the BBC tell us, it is literally just that they broke into RAF Bryce Norton on June the 20th and they sprayed it with red paint. So it's pretty typical of average leftist protests. You saw a lot of the Just Stop Oils, like damaging paintings and things like that with that sort of thing. Pretty typical. And they do this for a very obvious reason. It gains headlines, but it also doesn't do any tangible harm.
Yeah.
Right. So what this is a bunch of middle class, really insufferable people who spend all their time on the internet and want to be extreme do-gooders. And this is
all right.
annoying.
You know what? Yeah. Rebecca, you not just commented on this, but you also live in a country that is currently at war. So you understand that it's not, intangible harm when you actually harm the military, which is what these people did.
Sorry, I was munching, so I turned off the camera. Yeah,
Well, if Carl
100%.
Benjamin, was doing that, maybe he wouldn't be saying some of the dumb shit that he was saying. But yeah.
Mm-mm. That's why I think it's dangerous. Sometimes silence is better, and sometimes being a straight up hateful bigot is also better than what he does. It's like the most dangerous one. It's the ones that say, "Oh, this is not okay," but refuse to defend themselves. That's the worst, in my book, at least.
Yeah, and there's not much to defend there because again, historically, he became famous by arguing with woke feminists about video games
Yeah,
and and
he's
seeing
good on women, I see.
what yeah, well, he's
If he wants to argue with a woman, he can, but when it comes to fighting and everything like that, where you actually have to step up and be a man, that's where he fails. I see. Very common. I
well
understand.
well beyond that, he it was it was like I said, it was being against things that are in many cases easy to be against. It's the gender stuff that the left was pushing. What was it? At some point, by the way, in the UK, he ran for I think it was 2019. He ran for European Parliament as UKIP, the UK Independence Party. Now, UKIP had been around before. Pretty much all the people who made that party left it to start the Brexit Party, which is now Reform UK. He and his buddies took over UKIP and made something very weird out of it, where they fought with journalists and um it there is a pride seemingly when it comes to him and many of the people on the right or on the anti-left side in kind of standing up to adult conversations. That is how I remember him saying, I think it was about a journalist or maybe about Jess Phillips. If she's gonna be a bitch, I'm gonna be a dick, which is besides not how you expect a politician to talk, and I guess that's why he did it. It's also not what a person who is an independent thinker and an independent actor does. It's you do what is right and you don't let other people determine who you are. He has let the left determine who he is, and now he is I guess becoming some sort of defender of some bizarre type of freedom of expression, where part of your freedom of expression, Michael, is not just expressing views with words, but it's also taking action against your own country.
Yeah,
Well, if
sorry. Go ahead, Rebecca.
isn't it a basic human right to burn stuff down?
I was having a discussion slash argument with a person I'm on a board with from California, and he's one of these hypocritical leftists because he negotiates salaries and compensation like a great capitalist, and then pretends to be very, very woke and all this other horseshit. And I was saying what a disaster LA was with all these ridiculous riots about getting rid of people that are here illegally, including a lot of criminals. And I said, it's embarrassing that this is part of America. And he said, well, it's not a really big deal. It's only a few square blocks. Now that is exactly the problem with these people. It's absolutely consistent. First of all, riots of any kind, even if it were within a 10 square foot area, is not acceptable, period. It'd be like saying, well, as long as you confine your riot to a small amount and you can destroy all the property within the small area, that's okay. So it's obviously a ridiculous comment. The second thing is, this is a guy who pays taxes. And he thinks that the proper use of his tax money is to repair all the damage that's being done to the areas where there are riots. So thirdly, this guy is supposed to be a bleeding heart liberal who only wants the best for those poor, oppressed, poor people who can't find jobs and can't live anywhere. Well, guess what? If your businesses are all burned down, then those areas are not available to you. And it gets back to this ridiculous notion that part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the right to break into military installations. And let's just assume it was only red paint sprayed on an aircraft. And that's part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's perfectly fine, as long as you are a middle-class do-gooder who's an awful person. That's what they're saying. They're saying that we have a new Bill of Rights, and the rights now include this right to low-level protest. And it's just what leftists do, and it's all fine in that regard. They're awful people, blah, blah, blah. No, they committed crimes. They defaced property. They broke into a military installation. They should be in jail for a very long time. And the message will be very clear. If you want to do that, it's fine. That you're an adult. You're allowed to make your own decisions. But let's be very clear. We're going to enforce the crime. We're going to enforce the punishments to the fullest extent of the law and not pretend that it's just okay. And this is this ridiculousness going on, that we should tolerate low-level stuff. I'll just close. We tolerated low-level stuff so much in California that you cannot buy a vial of Afrin nasal spray without calling a pharmacy tech over to open the lock, because low-level crimes have been allowed now in so many places. Boston, San Francisco, all the liberal enclaves, and only liberal ones. In Florida, you don't have the problem. In Texas, as far as I know, the couple times I've been to Houston, you didn't have the problem. And you just can't get anything because people tolerated that. So all of us good people who don't steal are having to waste our time and wait around for somebody to come over with a key to open up for a $13 vial of nasal spray. And this is the life we've accepted. It's the same as the stupid shoe bomber crap that we all took our shoes off for 20 years in America. Thank God we just got rid of it finally, because some asshole decided he was going to put some explosives in his shoe, and TSA wanted to pretend that they were going to discover explosives by making you take your shoes off, which they can't. But they wanted to make it look like they could do something. And why people like this think that this is okay is beyond me. And it just leads to complete inconvenience for all of us.
Wait, you no longer have to take off your shoes in American airports?
No, they Trump overturned it, got rid of this stupidity.
Nice.
Yes, they changed the rules.
I'm flying back to the US tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to not taking off.
It's good, because if we have an underwear bomber, we're going to all take off our underwear, and it's just the stupidity of the government here is beyond.
Yeah, James, it is a unique thing that you have to ask somebody to unlock, basic stuff in a pharmacy. But I wondered back in, was it 2017, when Corbyn nearly won the election here in the UK, how the UK went from, in less than 30 years, from Thatcher, who saved this country from itself, to almost voting in a Marxist, full-on Marxist for prime minister. And I also wonder, when I look at the American right, how, in half a century, you went from Goldwater to Trump. That's sad. And, the Sargons of the world play a role.
We're going to get a communist. We're going to get a communist mayor of New York. Don't worry. And right next to the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. We're going to have a communist. I don't think
he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win, but the fact that he got this far is terrifying. And if he doesn't win now, he might win in 4 years.
And the fact that he has multiple opponents might open up a path to his possible victory. But the disturbing point that you raise here is the ideological decline, the cultural decline in civilized Western countries. Of United States that could give us, Calvin Coolidge and Barry Goldwater on the Republican right, or a Democratic Party let me put it that way, that has become so woke that they don't even recognize property rights, to the point that you can get well, look, it's just theft. Look, it's just vandalism. Look, it's just property damage. Look, we're just blocking the Hollywood freeway in downtown Los Angeles, affecting the the travel patterns of tens of thousands of people all at once. No, we have failed to understand what individual rights are, and what made Great Britain and the United States better than the world. And yeah, they're better. Well, one time they were certainly better than the world. Why? It was because they understood the concept of individual rights. When you are defining yourself, as you so rightly point out here, it's not that this guy is really an advocate for anything but the most absurd perceptual level tribalism. It's that he is anti-left. He's anti what he doesn't like. You're not going to, I don't even know how you would define what you're against, until and unless you can define what you're for. Until you take up the subject of philosophy, square on, belly up to the bar, define your terms, justify it all the way down to its roots. Philosophy is not an option. And when you see the erosion of the concept of property rights, you can actually deny perceptual evidence. There's no tangible harm here. Well, I can see it with my eyes, sir. It is clearly tangible. But when it comes to the greater, more abstract, perhaps less visible thing, this is no threat. It's a military base, for God's sake, sir. It's not only tangible physical harm, it is conceptually a threat to your entire nation. And if you can't define what you're positively for, and all you're doing is defining yourself by being opposed to your, quote, enemies, how are you even defining what your enemies are? In an emotionalist, probably tribalist way. And he is wholeheartedly embracing his own kind of tribalism. Hey, tribalism, good. And what is that? It is, again, as Ayn Rand so brilliantly put it, racism, for example, is the lowest, crudest form of collectivism. You can back up a little bit and you can say, okay, the Marxists, when they divide people up into the working class and, the bourgeoisie, that's a little more sophisticated and harder for the perceptual mentality to get. But nationalism is nice, good in between kind of tribalism. So England for English people, and France for French people. And disturbingly, J.D. Vance, when he accepted the vice presidential nomination at the Republican National Convention, said America is not a question of ideas. America is a matter of people and land. He might as well have, been echoing the worst kind of nationalist thinking. And when I point this out to objectivists, sometimes it is beyond, apparently, their so-called objectivists, beyond their capacity to see that's the problem. It's not individualism. It's not the idea of individual rights. And so you can end up talking about, quote, mostly peaceful protests as things are burning behind you. Or you can do the ridiculous thing that he said here, no tangible harm, when I'm looking at tangible harm. Or no big threat to anybody when it's a military base. And how do you end up denying reality to that degree? Well, you're an anti-conceptual mentality. You're a tribalist to the extent that you are conceptual, to the extent you have lifted above the immediate sense perception of the moment. You're identifying yourself by means of the tribe, the collective that you belong to, rather than as an individual, as an individual agent who has rights as an individual. We have long since lost the concept of individual rights that makes me so proud to be an American, is that America is based on an idea. Whatever Mr. Vance says, it is if America loses that idea, I'm losing my pride in America. If Great Britain loses its connection to the classical liberalism, of John Locke through the early John Stuart Mill, then what is British civilization anymore? If Britain loses its civilized, what makes Britain civilized? It's Enlightenment, old-fashioned liberalism, okay, classical liberalism. That's what makes Britain special. It's not the fact that it was the Normans or the Angles or the Saxons or anyone or the Brythonic people who came before. It is not a question of who you are and what connection you have to the soil or who your ancestors are. It's not. Or even particularly what religion you belong to. because at one time in this country, it didn't matter what religion you had. You agreed that each human being equally possesses the rights to life, liberty, and property. And when we lose our concept of individual rights, we've lost the basis of civilization. We've lost any basis for being proud Brits or Americans.
Yeah, I mean, the left will tell you openly that they are against America and want to take it down, and then some people, or a growing part of the right, tells you that, just not that openly, by saying it's not about an idea, it's about people. Somebody in the chat says Zoran ain't no real communist. That's not, first of all, that's not English, but that's also not true. I mean, listen to what the guy is actually saying. He's talking about government grocery stores that presumably only sell vegan food. I don't know that last part is true,
He
but
talks about seizing the means of production.
yeah.
Okay, no surprise, his dad is a Columbia anthropology professor and something or whatever studies. I mean, the man is an outright anti-Semitic Marxist, and he's a Marxist. I mean, when you take over the grocery stores, when you give free rent to people, and you're basing it on the ideology that he seems to be basing it on, no, you are a Marxist. Sorry, he talks about the vanguard like Lenin. Oh my God. I mean, what does it take to get it through your head that this guy is a Marxist?
And by the way, we did an episode about him. Unfortunately, I believe we're going to talk about him some more, but watch Rebecca's live stream from yesterday about him as well. Rebecca, any quick word on Zoran before we hear some more of Sargon?
Oh, Zoran, well, he's something. I mean, seriously, like I don't know what to think anymore. It's like, why is everybody so castrated? I don't know how to pronounce this word, Just kick him out. He's a communist. You have a law for it. Do something. That's my shtick.
Well, I could go to James to ask legally if that's a thing, but we're not going to do that today, James. We're going to save it for a whole episode about him. I will quickly go to the super chat before we listen to some more of Sargon. Thank you, Bull Moose, for the super chat. Bull Moose says, I actually used to like the Lotus Eaters, which is where I found him, until I gradually realized that group turned out to be woke right, to my horror. And Equal to Reality, thank you for being a member for 38 months. Equal to Reality says it's sad that Sargon has turned out the way he has. I used to like him, but now not really. Yeah, again, watch the stuff that he did with Raqqa. At least one of those was on this channel. I believe it's titled A Civilized Conversation or something like that. It was live on stage here in London. Yeah. Raqqa was telling him where he's going to end up, and Raqqa predicted it. So that alone is a good enough reason to watch that. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, I'd like Trump to ban entry to communists like Corbyn and Galloway. Can he ban entry for them from the UK? I don't know. I mean, they're already here, but anyway, let's listen to some more of Sargon.
We have here a truly fascinating video in which Sam Harris, I nearly said Sam Hyde, the secular, liberal, atheist, Jewish, new atheist, finds himself uncomfortably concluding that actually Israel ought to exist as a kind of ethno-religious state for the Jewish people, because there are real-world implications for being a stateless people that actually aren't very desirable. And so this, as he says, Glenn Greenwald points out, he always made Israel an exception to his atheism and opposition to organizing based on religious sectarian identity. The thing is, the Jewish identity isn't really just religious. It's a lot thicker and deeper than that. It's an ethno-cultural religious identity. And so, obviously, Jewish people who aren't religious are still Jewish, even though they don't follow the faith. And so Sam is one of those people, and yet he still feels an ancestral tie, because this is about tribes. This is about tribalism. This is about what tribe do you belong to even if you don't agree with everything that tribe says and does. And in Sam's case, is of course being a Jew, and in my case, it is being English. In Count Dankula's case, it's being Scottish. This is just what humans are like. Humans belong to tribes.
All right. No, this is not. You know what Carl Benjamin really needs is some answers to, life's ultimate questions about the universe and about ourselves, which is why he should read The Objectivist's Guide to the Galaxy. Sorry, I took off the jacket here, but yeah, the sponsor of today's episode and every episode of the reality show this month, the book by Zoltan Sendes. Already over 10,000 copies sold in less than a month, and hopefully one of those is Sargon. One of the first when Sargon was first flirting with some objectivist ideas, he did a video where he just read for something like 7 minutes out of Leonard Peikoff's book, The Ominous Parallels. I believe that clip was titled "Nazis Are Bad." I don't know if it's still out there, but yeah, he's maybe changed his mind since. But it was, it was a nice moment of Sargon coming to see that it's coming to see the impact of ideas in how humans behave. And no doubt this book, Sargon, will help you as well. Make sure you read it, and our viewers should make sure they read it as well. Yeah. Rebecca, any thoughts on what we just heard from Sargon?
About belonging to a tribe.
Yes.
So it's true to a certain extent. It's not because I just used that tactic today. And I said, because of the situation of the Druze in Syria. And I said, I know it from my experience, right? So when everything was happening against the Hindus in Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi Muslims started feeding me false information. And since I'm so far removed from the situation and I don't really know personally anyone who is Hindu in Bangladesh, I knew that it would be easy to just deny and like gaslight everything the Hindus go through. So I said, you know what? Like, I believe the Hindus. Like, this is my life experience. I just believe the Hindus. And this is tribal, 100%. And the same like with the Druze, you know what? I believe Sheikh Hijrat, Sheikh Hikmat Hijri. I believe him and what he's stating. And I don't believe like the Syrians who try to claim they're fighting militias. But I said, but I understand that because I have access to the Druze, then I come from I have a different perspective because I'm closer to the going-gongs then. And so I just said, like, listen, I understand because I knew like when I was dealing with what's going on in Bangladesh, I was like, you know what, I'm so far removed. And I realized at some point that it's really hard to understand what's going on the ground and who's right and who's wrong. And I just said, you know what, like, this is when you're tribal. Just believe the Druze. Just believe the Druze and not the jihadists, and just choose a group and just, no matter how much they are convincing, because they know how to manipulate you, they know how to gaslight, they know how to do it like to like an extraordinary, like it's amazing almost. You can see it, like I can see it. I could see Syrians writing, and I could see at the same time what Druze were writing in the private messages about what's going on. And I was like, it is so, they're experts. They're expert liars and manipulators. And if I was a little bit farther away, I would have maybe been confused, like, okay, who's saying the truth, who's not? And I said, you know what? I'll say something that I don't usually say: be tribal. Be tribal. When it comes to the Druze in Syria, be tribal. And that's 100% like was my approach. Because there are sometimes like that's the only option you have.
All right. We did come to this point at the end of the show, but I have to say, Rebecca, I disagreed almost with every single word of that, and maybe we need a special episode for that. The fact is, human beings belong to tribes. That is not a fact of human nature. It's not that humans, because you're born Druze, you have to act like the Druze around you are behaving, or, Palestinians.
I don't think that either, but sometimes it makes sense to use group identity. I'm sorry, if it's one group of Jews on one hand and one group of jihadists on the other hand, then I'd support. I don't even like, and I have no access to real information. Then I would assume that those who have a superior ideology, as in their books are better, are those who speak truth, and I do it like identity-wise, right? So they are people who believe in that. So this is what I believe in them.
But jihadist is an ideology. I mean, that is a commitment to an ideology.
But that is also identity. That's also group identity.
Yeah, but
Well,
my discernment of the truth is a matter of fact and logic, and every human being has the equal access to facts and logic. When we don't
I
know,
disagree.
let me respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah, no, I
That
don't
is
think
what
we
makes
don't.
all human beings capable of civilized behavior. If our minds are conditioned, if I can't understand your perspective because I'm a white dude, then peace is impossible. The only thing that
It's
makes peaceful coexistence possible is the fact that humans are capable of putting force and tribalism aside and adhere to reason. It is our ability to reason, and which is an individual attribute, by the way. There's no collective brain. There's no tribal brain.
There is culture. There is
There is
culture. There is ideology. There is religion. There is a lot more to a tribe than their color of skin. And this is something that happened in the West that I'm gonna push back on. The Western mindset of thinking everything is about skin tone is so degrading the mind. Like, you can't even make arguments anymore because you say it's white or black. No, I don't speak about their skin tone at all. I speak about a culture, a group, a tribe that has certain culture. And there are rules to get in the tribe that can also not be at all related to the race of a person that is in the tribe, but to what they have to believe in. And it's if somebody lives in an area that is from like an area like my family came from, the Kafkas and things like that, like, you have to know the culture of the group you're dealing with. And because so many times it's one word against the other, so all you have to know what's true and what's not true is
just one group against
just.
another. I'm saying I don't know. It's the facts that I
And
base.
this is why Britain looks like shit. Exactly because of that
I
thought.
think that we know why Britain looks like shit.
Because they thought you can bring people who hold a certain ideology and individualism. You don't know how good of a liars they are. They are expert liars. They know how to
How would I
pretend to
know
be
what a lie
liberal.
is?
And you have zero, as Westerners, have zero capabilities of understanding if somebody's lying or not.
Well, I do understand that people, based on the tribe that they belong to, come with it with epistemological prejudices, and so they impose those prejudices on the facts and the logic. The facts and logic have nothing to do with tribes, and the truth and my determination of truth has nothing to do with the fact that I'm an American, a Californian, a dude, white. I come from Christian
Okay.
ancestors.
all right.
No,
You think you don't think the way you think because you're a Californian?
yeah,
Are
I
you
am.
seriously?
I'm
Do you
yeah,
really
I am
think the
serious.
way that
I'm
the
serious.
idea
Most
you just
Californians with my
presented?
background disagree with me. So I have good reason to believe that I don't believe this because I'm an American or a Californian.
All right, guys, this is great, and the sequel will be something that everybody should tune into. We will schedule it and announce it soon because it is a big topic, and we did get to it right at the end. Had I known that this clip is coming, I would have said let's put it at the beginning, and the show would have been a completely different show and super fascinating to watch. We will do this sometime soon, but we do have to go. Let me quickly read the super chats. Thank you, Equal to Reality, who has been a member for 38 months. Equal to Reality says, actually, have I read this? I have read this, right? I'll read it again. It's sad to see that Sargon has turned out the way he was, but I used to like him, but now not really. Okay. Race, thank you for being a member for 18 months. Race says to think that he was once a curious young man that interviewed Yaron Brook. What a waste of intellect. Absolutely. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, I love the Ayn Rand Center UK. Thanks for your great work. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Parting thoughts, Michael, and where can people find you?
Yeah, quick parting thought. I mean, I think in medicine, if we did medicine the way the social quote social sciences like to do social science, which is to continuously revisit failed things like communism and pretend that tribalism is a way to create a country, we would still be using leeches on patients. I mean, the nice thing in medicine, engineering, and technology is that we build on what we did, and when things work, we go with it, and we only revisit stuff when it's clear that there are facts that disagree with our theories, and then do it. Now, of course, it's not that linear, but medicine has made amazing strides, and we aren't going back to using leeches, except actually in the very, very few situations where leeches have been proven definitively to be useful. We don't do it otherwise. And we use antibiotics to treat infections, and we don't do voodoo on people and expect them to get better. And it is despicable the amount of people that have had to die and will continue to die because people insist on revisiting failure. It's the same stupidity as the defund the police to prove yet again that when you get rid of policemen, you increase crime, which we proved yet again. And we still have morons in America and elsewhere that think they should defund the police. I am sorry. I am not sorry. I am on James's side on this issue of tribalism is useless. It is an old view. It is true about humanity, but that doesn't mean it's good. I also want to kill some people sometimes. I don't go to do that because I know that I believe it's wrong, and also that I'm going to be in deep shit if I do that. So I don't know why we need to go back to stuff that is clearly a failure. We have a set of really successful principles in the West. And yes, pretty much only the West has come up with a set of principles: life, liberty, property rights, and the pursuit of happiness. And along with that, Ayn Rand's reason, purpose, and self-esteem that go really well to making society successful and giving everybody the iPhones, including the terrorists, that they can use to blow us up. So I just, as a scientist and as a doctor, I think it's despicable. And certainly nobody in the physical sciences or anyone who has to deal with facts would ever go backwards and look at this. Michael Kaufman, LinkedIn, 2Fs, and I'm sorry, folks, we're over and I have to run. I apologize. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. I will give Rebecca the last word. Before that, I will go to James. Before that, I will tell everybody, yes, I know people want us to keep this going. We will keep it going on a different show. And it won't be 3-on-1, which is also kind of unfair. But we have a meeting that has already run over for the Irreplaceable Spark Conference, which is happening October 25th, 26th in Orange County. You should be there. James, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I am simply going to recommend a couple of books. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand and Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Leonard Peikoff. There you'll find the ideas that I was advocating articulated far better than I could. I'm glad that I live in a country where I can coexist with people from different countries and different tribes with peace and productive voluntary interaction. That's what makes America so great. You can find me at Facebook. I'm there active nearly every day. James Stevens Valiant.
All right. I am not going to Pierce Morgan this, no matter what Rebecca's final words are. James and I will not respond to them unless it's in the sequel.
No, you
in
can.
the sequel for the sequel. Parting thoughts, Rebecca, and where can people find you?
No, can respond as much as you want, but like individualism is beautiful and wonderful, and I agree with that, but it requires a culture around it to exist. And when you come from an area that is tribal, like the Kafkas, where my dad's family is from, you have to, you even, you know what, I'll say more than that, because before that I say you have Druze on one side and Jihadists on one side. I'll tell you something different. There are cases where the two groups are equally as bad. Equally is good, equally is bad. You know how, but you have to choose one because your survival depends on it. If you don't choose it and you don't go through and you don't stick to the choice, you'll die. You're dead. You're dead and you'll die. So it's so important to understand that, it's very, very, very important. And I love ideals. I love this, but I believe that in the end of the day, you have to also understand that not everything is built in a day.
And where can people find you?
Oh, so my channel is Rebecca Barsef. So just look up for Rebecca Barsef. And if you guys speak Hebrew, I also have a new Hebrew channel, which is Rebecca Barsef Hebrew. And also, you can just look up Rebecca Barsef wherever, like X, Instagram, and here on YouTube. I'm mostly here on YouTube.
And look up Rebecca Barsef at the Ayn Rand Center UK for the sequel of the Tribalism debate. I'm Razi Ginsburg on X. The Daily Objective and the reality show return tomorrow. Thanks for joining, and thanks everybody for watching.
Be safe.
Thank you.